start on this computer. All right.
All right, so first of all, thank you for taking the time on a Friday afternoon. I know it's like the busiest time for most agents because they're getting ready for open houses and weekends and stuff. But we wanted to put this together because last year, we looked at our numbers for 2021 and we exceeded all of our numbers last year at the market center of the company. This one did, and every time combined with the other, with our sister office, I mean, it was an amazing year. However, we wrote over $1 million, oh no, it was about $8 million in contracts that fell apart. So while we had our best year ever, there's about $8 million of contracts that fell apart for whatever reason. It could have been appraisals, it could have been inspections, it could have been all kinds of things. So we just want to make sure that we're writing cleaner contracts. Because it's the author that does everything, right? So if we write it clean so things don't fall apart, is anyone see? Is Lydia here?
She's filming and she's with Hector,
There's
but
a seat. There's a seat right here. What's your name?
Maria.
Hey, Maria. Are you from this office? Not this office.
No, I was at Gold Coast and I was just with them.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Yay. So you're getting your license?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to get approved.
Oh my God, that's great. So can you talk to everybody?
Ah.
You're the newest, right? She's probably the newest. When did you get your license?
A week ago.
Oh, there you go. You're our newest person.
Congratulations. I applied on the 7th, so it didn't take a while.
Yeah. It takes about
Did you
3
take
weeks.
your state test yet? or-
No, she can't. She's
I
up
can't.
to applying. now.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
I'll just say, yeah. Oh, cool. Welcome. Well, don't let this confuse you with the training that you're doing to pass your state test, because this will be, this is not, oh God, I don't want you to confuse what the coursework, because it's so different than what you're learning in Gold Coast right now. All right, so we want to really understand these concepts. So this is not going to be a fill in the blank. We want to make sure that we understand things in here and use best practices. So there was a couple of areas, and that's what I was looking at on here. Inspection period versus as is. Cash, finance, appraisal are challenges. Earnest money is always a challenge. Force majeure, we're coming into hurricane season. And I know hurricane season starts on June 1st, but we're already at the end of March. So when you start writing contracts in April and stuff, you're getting hurricane season. So we just want to make sure we understand force majeure. Permitting issues, FIRPTA, FinCen, and then there's a couple of other things you want to clear up. So you've got paper contracts, so you can write on them and refer to them in the future. So that's the whole point of just going back to paper. So, oh, that's really cool. Okay, show your, so she scribbled notes all over her contract, so now she can just add to these things, right? So if you can read your own notes, you can answer your own question, right? So it's a whole lot easier if you write your own notes. And then one day you're going to want to transfer it over to a nice clean version with clean notes on it. Because there's a lot of stuff on there.
This is from Calvo's.
That's so cool. That's so cool. All right. So this is the regular contracts class. Now, at the bottom of this, the bottom of your form, I don't know if you can see it on here, but it says Florida FAR bar as is. So there are hundreds and hundreds of contracts out there in Florida. Coldwell Banker has their own contract. Every company can create their own contract. Some people just take this and they just put their own logo up on here. As a broker protecting your license, if I see anything changed, you guys, if you see that someone changed this, if they altered anything on here, it's in your best interest to read everything because you don't know what else was changed. And one word could be changed on here that would change the essence of the contract. Now, if they're using this one, it's the one we always use and they wouldn't have made changes to it. So if you get offers as listing agents, the buy side generates paper. The buyer's agent sends the offers and generates the paper. The listing agent has to review it for the seller's protection. So you've always got to make sure that you're reading this over because your seller won't. Right? They're going to do what the expert tells them to do. And who is that expert? Yeah, and you just got your license last week. You're not the expert. Right? So they're going to trust you because you got the license. So you're the expert. So you've got to make sure that you understand some of these things. You don't have to be the expert because that's what we're all here for. If there's questions and you read something over, then you can say, hey, Dolores, I'm looking at line 135. I'm not quite sure what that means. Can you help me with it? So that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. We're the people you come running to when you need help. But I can't help you if you've never read it. Like if you say, I don't understand the contract. I'm like, what part? What line number? And don't send me a picture of something because it's taken out of context. Tell me the line number and tell me what you're talking about. So I'm a very, we call them, in Keller Williams, they call them a high D personality, the very type A personality. So when you talk to me, throw me the facts, right? Throw me the address, the dates, the sales price, the list price, and then tell me about the drama afterwards. But give me a clue what we're talking about because I can't answer the question, so I need the facts. So, so it's not like I'm being short with you, it's just like, I can't answer the question. Like if you call up and say, oh my God, Dolores, it appraised for 150,000 less. I'm like, what's the what? I'm like 150 from 200 or 150 from 2 million. Help me. So help me to help you. So you don't have to be the expert on this, but you should have read it and know where to go for the answers. So this, I'm not at the bottom. Why didn't you do that? Okay, stay. So at the bottom, it says Florida Realtors Fire Bar. So this is the Florida Realtors Association, or Florida Association of Realtors, combined with the Florida Bar, and they wrote this contract. So we use the Florida Realtors Bar contract. That's what we use in this office. And it says it's an as-is version 6, was revised in October 2021. So that's the one we use. So if you see anything different, you won't know what the changes are. I'll know because I teach this class every week, and like in September, when they said they were coming up with this one, I already knew what was going to be changed. But if it's a different one, you're going to have to read it. So we always want to make sure we use the Florida Far Bar as is. Now, as a listing agent, because the other agent is sending you, you have no control over what they're sending you, but you do have to read it.
I've seen it, excuse me, I've seen it in other listings where they, like,
Specify.
just say, like, True Code, they would specify
Yeah.
Florida Far Bar as is.
Yeah, so you just do what the other agent tells you. So as a listing agent, you can't put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but some companies will not allow their agents to use this because of their errors and omissions or legal representation. They can only use their own because their attorneys will only use their own. So you can't, I'm not going to turn an offer down if you don't. If I say, I want to see a flower bar as is, and you send me something else, who am I working for? Right. Right. So I've got to do what's best for the seller and present it. I'm not going to not present it because it came through on a different form. Okay. Right? I'm not going to do that. Now, can they do it? Yeah, but that's an ethics violation. If you don't do what's best for you, you do what's best for your seller, and that is get the offer and get the property. So we got to be careful with that. There's a couple of other contracts that Florida Realtors accepts, and one of them is just called the FAR, and it has the letter CRSP, Contract for Residential Sale and Purchase. Contract for Residential Sale and Purchase, which our shortcut name for it is CRIS. So, contract for residential sale and purchase. It is a Florida Realtors contract, but we nicknamed it CRIS because, I don't know, the initial. CRIS addendums do not match with the FAR bar as is. So there's 26 addendums. If they have CRIS at the bottom, you cannot use it with this contract. So those addendums don't work with this contract, and these addendums don't work with the crisp contract. So as listing agents, you have to be careful not to notice if there's a crisp at the bottom.
So where
Well,
would
this
you
is
find,
how.
as a listing agent, where would you find the crisp addendum?
It'll say it.
Right, but,
Listing agents don't have to look for anything, right? Because the listing agent is not the one picking paperwork.
but if you have to write an addendum for the buyer's agent, where would you find it?
You don't write addendums for buyer's agents.
Oh,
Why would you write an addendum for a buyer's agent?
If you're a buyer's agent, I guess.
You write the addendum. Buyer's agent generates paper.
Okay. My last sale, I had the selling agent generated an addendum. That's fine.
So then they'll just use a blank form,
Okay,
right? Was it a blank form was the addendum a blank form?
I think so.
Okay, that's, blank forms don't care, right? It doesn't matter. But addendums make references to sections and line numbers and the contracts don't match. That's why. Typically the buyer's agent, so you can't force someone to do it, but buyer's agent pushes paper. Because they're the ones who have to hold the deal together, right? Because your seller wants out. Your seller wants to get up to another offer because it's going up in value by the day. We're waiting for that buyer's agent to mess up. It's like, yes, I can go and put it back on the market and get another 50,000. They're waiting for it. They put the burden on the buy side. We always want to put the burden on the buyer's agent. So being a buyer's agent is way harder than being a listing agent. Listing agents, they don't work weekends, right? I put the listing on Friday, I'm going to my pool on Saturday. You know who's showing properties on Saturday? So being a listing agent, it's more of an investment up front in learning and the appointments, and it's harder to get the appointments, but you earn it. So you don't have to do all the same work. So as a listing agent, as a buyer's agent, you want to make sure that we're using the Florida Association of Realtors as its contract and not the Florida Association contract for residential sale and purchase. So that's the big thing at the beginning, is knowing which forms to use. Big thing. Okay, I'm not going to fill in the blanks, but I do want to mention the difference between escrow and closing agent. What's the difference?
The escrow is where you put your escrow money, and a closing agent is the closer.
Are they the same?
They
could be,
or.
They don't have to be.
Right.
This is where me and my buyer are sitting down and writing an offer and putting the money in, right? That doesn't mean that the listing agent has to provide me with a closing. I don't know it yet.
Would you always put Jacob there?
I only use level 10.
Okay,
Why else would I use somebody
no,
else?
but if you're on the buy side, would you always, just.
The buy side always uses level 10 for escrow.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really fast and good at it, and he's right here.
I know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's easier for us to talk to him if we need to back out or something. Now, this is something that's very hard for all agents. It says check 1. Does the initial deposit accompany the offer, or is it going to be made at a later date? What do you guys do? Make it a later date. Tell me why. Why?
Want it to be accepted first.
You want it to be accepted before you take the escrow. But why do you want it to be accepted before you take the escrow?
You only have 24 hours for the grant, is it 24 or 3 days, yeah.
Why don't you take the escrow when you write the offer? Why not? Why don't you take the escrow right away? Are they buying?
Yeah.
So why do they need time? When you go shopping, you get the groceries and then pay later, 2 days later? Why? Why do we do that? I know that's what
I
we
know
were
what you're
taught.
saying.
I know that's why we were taught. But this is here for a reason. Why do we give the buyer 3 days to not bring you escrow, to back out because their mother, sister's brother's cousin is a real estate agent and they want to write the offer? Why do you give a buyer that you have invested time in and you're writing an offer for? Why do you then say, hold on, you don't need to buy it? I'll give you 3 days to make up your mind. Why do we do that? I mean, what? I know you do it, but why? Why can't you just take the money and send the offer in? Does it stand a little stronger if the money is here in escrow?
Yeah.
You're not giving it to the seller, right? But does it make that offer just a little bit stronger?
Okay.
In this day and age where sellers are turning down things and I just have contracts thrown at them, why don't you put it in escrow? They don't have to sign the release because you don't have an executed contract, so you can get it back. Are you afraid to ask for the money? I mean, when I take buyers out, it's like bring your flip-flops, an umbrella, and a checkbook. Because we're buying a house. You didn't just come out here for us to go sightseeing. We're gonna buy a house. We need to get it right now. We don't have 3 days to wait for someone else to give them more offers.
Can
Can
it,
the listing agent get more offers in those 3 days?
Yeah.
Yes,
can you let it sit there?
in escrow, absolutely.
Okay,
It's not
because
executed.
then if you don't get that contract, then.
Absolutely.
Okay,
You just give them the executed one of wherever it's gonna go to.
Okay.
Absolutely, it's an escrow. You
okay.
can't do anything with it. This is something that's happened in the last 10 years. We never did that. We started doing this with short sales because the short sales weren't closing. And then everyone got trained that way. Oh, wait 3 days. Why? How many offers can someone get? If you're writing an offer for a $300,000 house, how many offers can happen in 3 days?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, take the money.
You also make them accept it the same day, or do you
Well,
still
we're
give them time?
down
for-
here.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
So don't be afraid to ask for it. And that way you can actually take a check if they have a check, or it could be wired.
Yeah, or I get offers with a copy of the contract, the pre-approval, and a copy of the check. And that's the offer that the agent sends
So
in.
you don't have to have it come here and physically drop it off. We can just do it. I know,
Well, how do you write the offer? Are you not with them when you write the offer?
well, when I write the offer, I'm at home and then they sign it on DocuSign.
Maybe we need to change that a little bit more too. Because you're giving them time. So let me get something straight. You show them a house. You say, hold on, let me go home, put it on DocuSign and send you the offer.
And Doreen's gonna call him and she's gonna have him by then.
Well-
So you take this to you, to your showing.
Take one with you
Take it to your
all the time. I mean, do you literally say, hold on, I have to go home and write the offer? You've already showed them the house, you didn't look at it. You're there, right there, you're like,
You're like, I
and you're
love
like,
it.
hold on.
I don't say, hold on. I say,
Well, that
"Okay,
is
let
what
me
you're
get the
saying.
Paperwork to you. I need to go home and write it.
I'll bring him back to the office.
Bring them back to the
We'll do it
office.
together.
Or if it's an empty house, I'm right there, I'm like, all right, let's have this whole on paper, right on the counter, right on the counter. I don't let them go anywhere. Once I lose them, I've lost them to their friends, neighbors, family, and relatives and coworkers. I lost them. Oh, don't buy now, it's too expensive. Oh, no, my sister's a realtor, let her take you out. Oh, I mean, like,
I was telling Sharon that nice briefcase you have.
Give me the
You have
load up.
a copy of these in there. Because when you have your open house, no, when you have the open house and somebody walks in there wanna buy
Well,
the
that's
house.
different.
you're
That's an
selling,
open house.
oh, wait a minute, you were in the house showing it to them, you were there,
Okay,
that
so like
wasn't
my
open
last
house.
contract with these people,
No,
there was
same
like,
thing with your buyer.
the seller allowed us to come late. And they had kids, so we had the in and out.
Okay.
Bring
Bring it to the office.
You write it on the front of the car.
In my car, I have leaned over the,
I have leaned
the
over
trunk of
the
the
car.
hood of my car many times.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
You write it on the front of the car.
Listen
That's
to
all
the
I'm saying.
experienced agent. I'm telling you.
Lock it in, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So the client writes the check right then and there after signs the offer that we
I'm
make,
happy with
right
that.
then and there, and then take a picture, we'll put a PDF, we send it to the listing agent.
Well,
Right
you're
then
gonna
and there.
bring, after it's written, then you are gonna scan everything and send it to the listing agent as
So I
well,
do
right?
control first and then send out.
Scan it, yeah. Yeah.
Then your
You'll
title,
get all
and then
the
your title company
disclosures,
is right around the
and then
corner.
There's- How many, what are your major disclosures?
Lead-based paints.
Well, you know
appraisal.
if it's lead-based paint before you get there.
Well, yes,
Okay,
because,
so you already know,
Okay.
you have the MLS, you already know what addendums you need, right?
right,
There's no,
But
don't overcomplicate it.
Okay, Sharon, we're gonna have to do all this up your rate.
What is in there if you don't have
What is
paperwork?
there if you don't
What
have
is
it?
in there? It's just cute.
If you don't have.
If you don't have the
those
stuff you need, what is in there? Okay, we're not giving a hard time, but we are.
I love her briefcase anyway.
I know.
I might audit it.
I'm about to take it and put it to work.
okay.
How is the escrow amount?
Determined. Yeah, we'll go through that. So I hope that helps a little bit, this, company's not, because we're trying to write bulletproof offers. Right? Bulletproof.
Here's a good question. What determines the escrow?
Yeah, we're getting there. I'm like over here. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
And if they write the check right there, make payable. to
Level 10. Level 10. Everything goes to level 10. Everything goes to level 10. So let's make this a binding contract, right? Not just an offer that's just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna negotiate with that. Right? He keeps the money, don't worry about it. What, so what should your earnest money be? So it should be as high as you can get it, depending on the circumstances, but not enough to sway the logic of the seller. So here's an example. I have a $500,000 house I'm writing the offer on. If I put in 5,000 deposit, should he take his house off the market for 5,000?
No.
So there's no rule of thumb, right? Would he take it off for 20,000? Would that be better than anyone else's offer? Probably 20,000 would be good. How about 50,000? Isn't that better than 20,000? 50,000 is great, except it sends a seller to the signal. Sends a signal to the seller or the other agent that anytime you miss anything, they think they're getting your 50,000.
Well, see, that's what I'm afraid of. That's why I put the 5,000 down.
5,000 is too low. If it's a $500,000.
But then I do 10 days later, another 5.
Okay, hold on, we're getting there. We're getting there. So at the beginning, it shouldn't be too high, but not too low. Can you always add on more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
After
after
inspection.
inspection,
Right, and that's what.
after inspection. So there's a first, so there's money over here, there's money over here, and more money over here.
So Cassandra wants to know.
Cassandra. Her name's not Cassandra.
Were you saying, we just want clarification,
No.
are you saying?
But when it glass over,
Okay, go ahead. That's
Exactly.
right.
So the 50,000, are you saying that the 50,000 for this case would be a little too
I
high? You
think
would go with the 20? Thank you.
so
No,
what,
no, it's too high, but then the seller is going to determine on which offer they take.
absolutely, yeah.
And do you think the seller is gonna want 20 versus 50?
Of
Or
course.
which one do you think they're gonna want?
Well, of course they're going with the highest, but I think.
But that's what they're gonna
So what I would do is probably put 20
20
here
here
and put
30
the other
there.
card here, because let me get past inspections, right?
Yeah,
Let me get past inspections before I tie up the money, because if they want to back out, if they want to back out, my seller's like, I'm not backing out.
Right.
I got $50,000. Because your seller's not going to do it.
right.
Cheeto, were you gonna say something?
So when you're representing the buyer, you wanna kind of do the split, so you
Split
kind of
it.
So
make
the
sure you
initial,
take care of your buyer.
for a 500,000 or 75, I have put 5 at the top for that and another 5, 10 days later.
Would you take your house, would you take a $500,000 house off the market for $5,000?
No,
No.
no, because in this market, I know for sure if it's the only offer I got today and it says 5,000 in
What about a
escrow,
backup
I
offer?
wait.
What
I'll
would you
wait for
put
the
for a
next offer.
backup offer for 500,000?
If I'll take a backup offer, if I'm already under contract,
Yeah.
and I'll take a backup offer with
Not a
5,000 escrow.
Backup, you don't take the money right away.
Well, yeah, yeah.
You're not
because
taking it
backup
right away.
is
You're
gonna
not
wait
taking it
till
until
we
it's
call out the
accepted.
contract.
Oh, I don't take, okay.
So would I put 20,000 up there?
Yeah.
If you have a buyer and you want your buyer's offer to be considered, and if they say to you, Sharon, I have 50,000, I want to put it all in the 3 days and show the seller that I'm serious about the house.
Right. I mean, he has
What
to pay
we're-
20% anyway.
Right.
That's for one.
So what we're saying is, don't put the whole 50 on the first line. You can split it 20,000 in 3 days and the next 30,000 10 days later or 7 days later, whenever your inspection period.
Okay, so then.
Okay,
after
okay,
inspection.
let me go a step further. Yours is a backup.
Okay,
Okay, let's go the other way around. You wrote an offer like you always do with 5,000 and 5,000. 500,000 conventional, all things are equal.
Yeah.
She writes a backup with 20,000.
right.
What's your seller gonna do the minute you make mess up a little thing like an
They're
inspection?
gonna get out of it.
They're gonna get out of you and go to her backup because her backup has more
Okay,
money than
so-
yours. So put more money down.
So this is why I needed to be here.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing a backup tonight.
Yeah.
So-
Okay,
Okay,
so does that answer your question? It's,
Yes.
there's no rule of thumb. Now, that's great with conventional. What if it's FHA? They may not have that much money, right? So we gotta be careful with FHAs.
But if it doesn't pass inspection or appraisal or all of that, the escrow money goes back to the buyer.
If it's done on time.
If it's done on time.
Yeah, if you're a day late, we're fighting over escrow, and that's why I don't wanna have 50,000 in here, because my seller's gonna fight.
Yeah,
He's not gonna fight over a little bit, but he won't accept it over a little bit, so.
and after the contract is accepted or the property is sold, the escrow money goes where exactly to the seller or to the
Once
escrow
we
account
close,
transaction?
all money's going to closing.
Almost all.
All the money goes into the closing. Everything's accounted for.
If you're credited to the buyer.
If that's the case.
Okay, now. I lost. I lost my train of thought. Escrow was good. Okay, so we're okay with escrow and title. Don't argue over this. Like if they come back and say everything's good, but I don't like your escrow company.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not a cheating moment, don't worry. Just say, I just put it there. When you give me the closing agent, I'll move it, right? Because they'll just.
when do you have to move that?
As soon as you can get it done, just say, I'll move it. Like, okay, accept it and I'll move it, I'll cross it out, I don't care. The money's here, we just have to tell him to move it. So you can cross out wherever you want. I don't know. This means nothing, once it's accepted, because it doesn't matter where the escrow's not, never gonna stay here, so it doesn't mean it.
Is
It's
there
just temporary.
a transfer fee?
No, there's no fees. Title doesn't charge fees. All right. Okay, all deposits, that's great. Financing. This is my own personal thing, because I don't have a calculator in mind. Put the actual amount in here. Come to 75%, because I'm not gonna figure it out. And this is really cool. If I have an actual amount, I can just add all these up and they match the total. So I don't know if I gotta figure it out. Yeah, I'm not that smart. I mean, I can do 10%. I can do 6% of anything. I'm real good at that. But
That's if it's less, you don't want
Right,
to see.
so don't put the percentage. put the
no,
amount
put the
of
actual
loan,
amount.
put the
So
actual
that
amount
is-
of the loan.
Okay, and I think everything else is okay. Cash to close. I've seen this happen. I'll use easy numbers, so I'll write this down. The offer is 500,000, right? They're doing 80-20 loan to value, so it's 20% down, 80% financing.
You want me to write for you?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
You're such a leader.
the purchase.
500,000,
180, 20.
500, 80-20 financing. So what would the 80% of the 500,000 be?
400.
You're so smart. 400,000 loan,
Okay.
20,000 deposit.
100.
We don't have erasers in here.
We got it. How
I'm
much
gonna
is the,
put-
how much,
20, it's awful, 20,
how much is the escrow?
20,000. No, 20,000 in escrow.
Mhm.
400,000 is the
Finance.
loan amount,
Finance.
finance.
Is there additional escrow after 10 days?
No, I'm just gonna do this one. And
No,
so
yeah,
what's my cash to close?
80.
Balance to close is
80.
80. So, okay, so if I go up, it adds, right?
Yep.
Yep.
That,
all of-
that,
1, 2, 3 should add up to
500,000.
500.
Okay.
These three should add up to
So that
500.
makes it so much easier.
Makes
Just makes it
sense?
easier.
1, 2, 3, these three should add up to 500.
So the finance will always be 400. What if I put a second deposit of 10,000? Only the bottom will change,
Right.
right? Only the bottom changes.
Goes on top.
So
So,
Yeah. it just makes it easier.
So,
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, ma'am.
This is easy now, right? Okay, here's what I'm getting at. So I had an agent. Who, no reflection on them, but when they heard 80-20, they thought this had to be 20%. What's 20% of 500,000? They took 100,000 from the client.
Wow.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the down payment or whatever, 3.5, 10, that has nothing to do with escrow. It's cash to close. So if I was supposed to bring in 100,000, I could put 20,000 here. Cash to close is the balance. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, let's do another thing. Same thing, so let's do another column. So this will be conventional. This column's gonna be VA. VA is 100% loan.
Mhm.
Okay, $500,000 is the amount. Escrow it's VA, so I still want to have a good escrow. Because I'm going to have a hard enough time convincing someone to accept VA, so I'm still going to put 20,000 in escrow. Loan amount is 500,000. The financed amount is 100%. It's 500,000, right? As he's a vet, he gave our life for us, right? Sacrifice his life. What's cash to close?
they get their
480. I mean, nothing, because the loan is 100.
No, they get their money back.
Add it up. What's wrong? If you add it up, you're gonna come up with an amount.
20.
20 what? Cash to close.
20,000.
Well, if I put
20 over.
20 here, it'll be 20, it'll be 540. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up then. So what would it be?
They would get a credit at closing.
20,000.
Negative 20,000.
Right, they would get a credit
Instead
at
of
closing.
bringing 20,000, they're gonna get a negative 20 off of their closing costs or whatever. it is.
Okay, so
It still has to add up. This still has to add up. So see that? Still has to add up.
Yeah.
So they get escrow back.
They get their money back at closing.
Right.
So you put it in.
walked away with a check.
Yes.
But
Why
to
not?
those but to the seller wants to see some sort of escrow because that is what it's saying, I'm really interested in your property. So there, you still need to put an escrow amount, even though you're doing a VA, which is 100%.
Is it
Right.
not just walk
What
away?
Dolores is
Still want it to
saying.
look more attractive,
It's
even
attractive
more so.
offer.
because
Skin in
it's
the game.
VA. Yeah. So it works. You can do VA. You don't have to say, oh, it's 100%. That doesn't matter. It's still a loan amount. The bank's still gonna give him his money when we close.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Don't turn VAs away, is really what we're saying to the other agent. Now, there you might have to have a little coaching moment with the other agent. Right? So, great.
All right,
thanks.
I'm done.
That was
Great.
good. Thank you. We'll have
Great.
to come back up though, because we're not really done. All right. Are we okay with this?
Yeah.
Okay, make it strong, but not to the detriment of your buyer. Is really what we're saying. Okay. Time for acceptance of offer, 2 sections, and counter offer, 3 sections, and the effective date are all in here. 3 different things in there, and this is where we get messed up a little bit. They should have made it 3 different things, but if not signed by buyer and seller and a copy delivered by this date. So how much time do you give them? Well,
It depends on what the conversation is with the listing.
well, for me, it's, does the seller live there or not? That's what I go by. Because if the seller lives there, there's no excuse, no reason in the world why that listing agent couldn't talk to their seller. I could have talked to the seller if they're there, which I do. Would you ever do that? I go into the living room and I sit down with the seller. And my buyers are walking around, like, where are you going? Oh, that's so cool. When do you have to be there by? Have you done that? Don't let me in with the sellers.
Be surprised what they tell you.
Everything. Oh, Dolores, you know
Well, that's the
what?
first thing I asked, where are you going?
I ask
Are
where
you
they're
doing
going and
there?
when they need to be
Yeah.
there. And then they're like, oh, you know what? I meant to fix the AC, so.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, no, don't worry about it. Anything else I need to know? Don't,
Yeah.
you know, as listing agents, you have to coach your sellers. Do not talk to those evil buyers. Do not talk to buyers. Don't talk to anyone. Don't answer any, leave the house.
How long do you need to close now? You need extra
Right?
time? Okay, whatever we can make.
Don't
it
let me
easier
near
for
a
you.
seller. Okay. So this all depends on how quickly you can get access to the seller. If the seller's not there, I have to ask the agent, are they accessible? Right? Because they could be in the hospital, they could be on vacation. I have to ask if they're there. But I typically give them 24 hours.
Yeah.
Because Tito was just there. I'm like, same seat, different agent. Like you guys are playing games with me. First time I look up, there's somebody else sitting there. So you have to ask. I do 24 hours, and if they're not there, I'll do 48. But that's the max I'll do.
What if an agent tells
Yeah,
you
they're
not
saying,
until the weekend?
not
Yeah,
until
that
Monday
really,
at
that
5.
bothers me.
Oh,
Yeah.
and then it goes
Because
to-
why are they telling you to wait?
Because they
They
want
are
waiting
waiting
for
for
more
more
offers.
So what would it take for us to seal this right now? Doreen, you want to wait 4 days?
No,
No, you're the seller. You're the listing agent. Doreen, I need an answer in this in the next 48 hours. Can we get that done?
oh, no, Dolores, you won't be able to get an answer in 48 hours. My seller is out of the country right now.
So there's no way to get a hold of them?
No way.
All right, well, that one doesn't count, right? They don't have cell phones?
They do, but, I don't know that I'm gonna get an answer back to you today.
How much time do you need?
I need at least, 2.5 to 3 days.
3 days? Okay. Is there any way I can entice you to just get that done a little faster? Like if I up the offer a little bit, can you make this work?
Well, you know what? All the agents are asking me the same question, so.
What would it take? I'm not letting you off the hook.
Okay, so, okay,
What would it take?
what would it take to get it done today? I mean, and this is something that if I call my seller now, they'll get out of bed, because they're a couple hours ahead
Oh,
of
isn't
me.
that interesting?
They'll get out of bed and say yes.
So now you can
'cause
get
they're a couple of hours ahead, so they're in bed right now.
There
So
was
now
a
you can get
$1,000 bonus.
Right?
I mean, I would, no, well, to be honest, I wouldn't want to wake my clients out of bed. Where they
Unless it
are
was
right
worth it.
now, it's 10 at night. I wouldn't want to wake them unless it's really, really worth their time.
I do a strategy. I say, if depending on your client, I say, hey, listen, can you let them know our offers are listed for in this market, they're listed for 650. Hey, we're gonna give you 680. You have 24 hours after that, our price goes back up to the last one.
Yep.
Can you look them up right now?
I'm gonna drop 5,000 for every day that you make me late.
You know why I'm not going to wake them up?
Yeah, no,
Because I have an offer that's higher than you. That's why I'm not
Okay.
going to wake them from 6:30.
We're giving you tactics though, right?
Right,
Okay,
right.
and being out of contact is almost impossible.
These days, yeah.
Yeah, so so when people say that, I'm like, seriously, like, where are they?
Yeah.
I
I ran into that problem when I was in Atlanta. My client said, I want to wait for the 2 more days to see what other offers I get.
680 now, 660 in 2 days.
Yeah,
Tell your seller, just tell your seller, that's what it is, right?
I mean, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So then you write that on page 12.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 680 is accepted by this date, 650 is accepted by this date, page 12, right there.
Right.
Right, look, we've got to make this work.
Right, but if it's market, if you have an offer that's even higher than that, then it's like, that's like, okay, fine, whatever. You know what? Because you might have something that's much higher than what they're
It
trying
could
to
be.
negotiate.
It could be, but I've still got to get that presented. Remember, this is to present it.
Mhm.
I need that. I don't want you to wait until there's 5 offers to present it. I want you to present it, right? Let's get it done. If you can take it off the market, your work is done.
Right. So talk a little bit then about when you put in the broker notes that open house is Saturday, all offers will go in on Tuesday at 5 or Monday at 5, just so everybody knows that's the time frame. Don't even call me,
That's okay.
right? Okay, that's okay.
As long as I can see it and the open house is that date,
Okay.
it's not okay with that. That's okay.
So then you put down the date that they're accepting. The
And
open
if you're
house is
presenting-
on
if you're
Sunday,
presenting-
Presenting.
presenting Monday, so it'll be put. that
So on
Monday.
that one, also on page 12, 680 today, 650 on the day that you want it presented. You'll present it. And even though they said, no, I would still do it that way. I would still do it to a sliding scale. Every day is money, right? So take it off the market. So I would still do that. So that's just the offer part. Now, once you get counter offers, you have another 2 days after the day the counter offer is delivered. So you don't need to change this date. Once you start, it's just the first time it's presented. Now we're countering. You don't need to change it. You've got 2 days. Every time you make a change, you have 2 days. And then the effective date of this contract, the last part, is when the last one of the buyer and seller has signed or initialed and delivered the offer or the final counter offer. That's your effective date. No matter what you think your effective date is, communicate it to the other agent. Because you don't want to think it's one date and they think it's another day. So just say, hey, Doreen, as far as I'm concerned, the effective date is going to be March 18th. Are you okay with that? Can we start use that as our date? Just gonna communicate it so we all have the same date.
So if they counter, they X this area
could.
on page 12,
They could, they don't have.
and then is it still verbal between me and the
I
seller?
asked, so once it's presented, right, it's presented.
Yeah.
And now we're countering. Once we start counting, when they come back and say, Dolores, we're gonna accept the 680. But we want you to change the close date. Okay, now we're countering close date. So I asked permission. So I'm like, hey, Tito, is it okay if right now we get all the terms solid and then I'll make the changes with you? Is that okay? Okay, so I'm going back and forth verbal. I don't do verbal, I do emails. But I'll go back and forth because I need the trail. And then it shouldn't take but a day. And then I'll go in and make the final changes because I don't like too much on here. But the changes get crossed out right here.
Oh, you cross them out, you don't present another.
Never, ever, ever rewrite a contract.
Okay.
Never. Because if you miss one dot, the contract's different. And when you copy from one to another, and there's 12 pages, inevitably you're gonna miss them. And it could make the entire difference of the contract. Never
So you
rewrite it.
just cross it off and have
Why
everyone
not?
initial.
Yeah, initial.
Okay.
I have a question for you. Let's say for instance, you put a property on the market and you said will not be accepting offers until after the, open house or whatever, but it's active. So
Yeah,
you're
it has to
still, I'm not accepting offers, but,
Presenting.
making a decision or what have you. So if that happens, like you was saying, take it out to the market now, I'll give you 50,000 more than what your seller is asking. You're not in violation of anything if you take it off, right?
Yeah, that happens all the time. They say, oh, no showings till the open house, but then it's under contract before the open house even
Showings
starts.
is different. Showings is a violation.
Oh,
No
okay.
showings and not presenting offers are two different things.
Right.
No showings is a violation
Okay.
with the coming soon thing. That's a violation.
So if they listed
Report.
without coming soon, but they put in there no showings until this
That's
date.
different. Oh,
Is
coming
that-
soon is no showing.
But
It is the same.
they didn't list it as it's active, but it says,
Coming soon is active. Active coming soon, it is no showing.
like, I just saw like something today where it says active, but then no showings until the first
Violation.
open house.
Violation.
Okay.
Violation.
I just thought that was
Showings
their way of
and
doing it.
presenting offers are two different things. Active, no offers will be presented 2 days after open house. That's not the same as no showings. Two different things. No showings is automatically coming soon. Automatic. And if not, report the violation. It's a little button, just press it. It's anonymous.
You don't know who you are. You know your office.
Just not if it's just off.
They have my login, they have my license, they have my name, but they don't know who I am.
You don't.
They don't. The MLS does, but it goes through as,
Yeah,
all right.
I would be afraid of it.
okay, are we good? All right. And then, of course, your initials at the bottom.
Now, one quick question, in this market, with a lot of competition, when you give yourself the leasing agent 24 hours, isn't that room like if they don't like your offer to let it expire?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you,
Well, which one do you want? Do you want the offer to expire, which is why I would typically put 2 days. But do you want to expire or do you want them to have 10 offers to compete with? Can you go back and represent the offer? Can you change the date and send it back to them? Yeah. Remember, the list side is trying to get the most money possible, right? In the shortest amount of time with the least amount of effort. So that's the goal there. But you've got to get those, I mean, how many times are you gonna take up the same buyer? How many times do you take up the same buyer? Because they get turned down, right?
I haven't said that. I said best. I said, just present it today. What will it take? Just present it.
Yeah.
And he sends you an email back. Such a nice email back. But
Telling you
No,
no.
he does. No, he goes, can you have them sign this and tell them to not do an appraisal contingency?
Okay. Extension of close date, I'm not gonna read that to you. There's your close date, put an actual date on there. Remember, we have our time guidelines, calendar days, unless you put a date on here, and then there's the weekends and stuff, so put an actual date to make sure it's not on a weekend or a holiday, and then also, no weekends or holidays, and try to do it before the 15th.
On or before, or just on?
There is no such thing as
Can't-
before.
can't do that.
We like to write on or before.
Right.
The lender's gonna do on, the title company's gonna do on, because they need a date, so they have to put something, and they can't put, question mark. So just put a date. If we can get it done earlier, we'll all agree to get it done earlier, but you don't need an order before.
If they do it in DocuSign, you won't even allow them to write.
No, it doesn't.
No, it
No.
doesn't, it's not DocuSign.
Oh, well, never mind. Can you put a sign like less than, greater than, equal to,
Okay, that's a good one.
less than, equal to the date?
And then when they.
Try
don't see
it.
I know.
I actually just add a text box.
You can add a text box. You can add a text box anywhere.
What I normally do is I'll put the honor before on the last page and you can add a paragraph and whatever you want. I'll throw in the additional stuff there. Just, I mean, like you said, you can't, it doesn't matter title.
They're gonna put a date in, because they have to put a calendar
But
date.
if you wanted to just look good, you can put that on there and then like, look, even honor before, if we close sooner, titles.
There you go.
And everyone's on the ball, we'll close faster. Oh, yeah, I love that. That's it.
Oh, but you can't put the honor before in that spot.
But not on there. That
Not
doesn't
here.
matter. Yeah.
The same page.
Yeah.
Okay, so if all conditions are met, we can close before closing.
That's only 13 conditions.
Right? Occupancy, the day, midnight of the closing belongs to the buyer. Please remember that. Unlike other kind of states, you need to be moved out when you come to closing and hand over those keys. There's no, I'm gonna spend the night. No, it's not yours anymore. You come in here, you hand over the keys. There better be a moving truck out front. It's sad, but true. We don't have an escrow here. Like California, they have 3 or 4 days of escrow, or sometimes a week of escrow. We're not like that. We close, we hand over the keys, we're out. We need to be out before closing because there has to be a walkthrough. We're very different here. Why wouldn't you? Because the deal could still fall apart and there's a moving truck out front. And I'm like, oh, moving to the truck, we got a couple of nights. We used to literally pull the trucks up to our company because we used to do simultaneous close. When the market's hot, we could do a simultaneous close. It was awesome. The truck would be standing out front and I'm like, please let this close.
I had that last week, it took 3 or 4 hours of fun because it was simultaneous one,
Oh.
simultaneous here. So the movers are literally sitting outside in the rain.
Right?
And she even put boxes out because she had to unload some stuff and they're getting.
Yeah. Okay, but we have to hand it over. So as a note to buyer and seller, please make sure your utilities are on by the seller. Don't turn them off until the day after. And for the buyer, turn them on the day before. It's in here. It's already in here, but no one pays attention to it. So I'd rather have double utilities than no utilities.
Right.
Especially your buyer, because they're so happy. They don't remember. No water. So, because sellers like to close the same, they like to close, turn off everything the same day. Have them wait till the next day. Just ask them. It's gonna cost 10 cents. If there's a tenant in here, so if it's subject to lease, read that carefully. I'm not gonna go over that now because that's more of an exception than anything else. Financing. All right. So this is a cash transaction with no financing. What's a financing contingency? What does that mean? Mortgage, loan period, appraisal, commitment, none of that. No. What was the big one in the no financial contingency? You said one big major thing. Appraisal. No appraisal. No appraisal. Now, can you add an appraisal contingency?
Yeah.
Yes. So if it's cash, write yourself a note, ask your buyer if they want to get an appraisal. Tell them it costs $5,000.
We don't want it.
Oh, never mind, I don't need
You
it.
don't need it.
It's okay. You're fine with the cash. What do you need?
But you have to ask them.
Yeah.
Because they can't pop in afterwards. The other agent may not let you in. So you've got to put that in as an addendum. So be very careful with that. And cash. The cash has to be in the name of the person on the contract. So be careful with that. Is 401k cash?
If they get it up.
Well, at the time you're writing the offer, they haven't gotten it yet.
No.
Is it cash?
No.
No.
It's still tied
I'll
up.
tell you why it's not cash. Because if they can't get it, you just bound them to the contract. That's the problem. When you do this, you're holding them to the contract. You want to give them a way out besides the inspection period. So 401k, up to you, but you can explain it to them. I typically would put 401k right here, other 401k. Because I don't want them to get stuck with the no financing business. How about hard money? I'm buying a $500,000 house and Lydia's gonna pay for it. She's got the money in her bank account. I'm gonna get the hard money. Is that cash? It's cash.
Not cash.
It's her cash.
Her cash.
It's her cash.
Not the buyer's cash yet.
Is she gonna wanna do an appraisal?
Yeah.
Right?
Or,
So that's not cash.
right.
I still have to do everything for hard money.
The finance.
So it's not cash. If it's in, so Justin's gonna buy a $500,000 house, he goes, my mom's gonna pay for it, don't worry about it.
What a nice mom.
Thank you.
You think it's gonna happen? No, so it's not cash. I'm like, what you talking about, boy, that's your money. That's a loan. Look, cash is cash, it has to be in that person's name, so be careful with that. Not hard money, not hard money. It has to be in that person's name, it has to be in a financial institution in this country. Otherwise, put other. If you need time to get it over here, put other. Anytime it's not one of these, and it's not readily in their name, put other.
Okay, so you would just put other so-and-so's name?
I would put other
I
and the
have a
type, like,
buyer.
if it's hard money, I put other, and I would put hard money.
Okay.
Why do you think it's called hard money?
Hard to get.
Rates are hard.
Hard to get, hard to pay back, hard to points.
It's hard.
So I have
Points
a
in
buyer.
the beginning, middle, and end.
Yes.
Balloon payments.
But yeah, it's hard.
So my buyer's father-in-law is paying for the house.
Hard money,
So I just put
other.
other hard money.
Just put other. You don't need to explain anything. If they ask, you can say it, a family member is gonna give them money.
And
Well, that
then,
person, the hard money's gonna wanna be on title anyway. as a-
No, it's a loan.
No.
Yeah, it really depends, yeah.
Right, but they're gonna wanna be like, they're gonna have.
If it's real hard money, yeah, but not, this is family.
so,
She was talking, like her example, I, yeah.
Oh,
so I don't put the father-in-law's name under
Well, that's up to, it's,
this person
who
here,
would you ask about that?
the buyer.
The father. And whoever, yes, that's that person.
Do you want to
You want
be
to be on title.
on title? Okay,
Yes, that's that person. That's not up to you.
okay.
All I'm saying is protect your buyer. It might look real cool like cash, but don't play that. Yeah. All right.
Dolores, can you enlighten what you said, the money has to be in this?
In a financial institution in the United States.
They don't
Especially
save
now.
funds and it's their bank account. Don't call.
So, yeah. Especially now with what's going on in Europe and everything, there's money being tied up places. What if they're a Russian, what's it, an oligarch?
Oligarch.
Yeah, and they're not getting their money. So, so especially whenever there's any kind of volatility, with the stock market, which is 401k, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, what's going on, what, the money has to be in this country now.
And if it is overseas, because. that's
Bring
what
it in.
happens. Other,
Other contingent on money moving over from wherever.
and I would put that in my page 12.
Yeah, that's what I would do,
Okay.
right? That's what I would do. Because I'm afraid of tying up their money. I can back out during inspection, but that's not gonna help me at the end. Because if I get past inspection, then I'm stuck. Right? Because if I put cash, I'm stuck after the inspection.
And then you just put.
But if I put other and we can't get it, I'm like, oops, too bad, couldn't get it.
And then you have an appraisal disclosure.
Yes.
Saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's no paper, cash papers and section, everything is on checks, wires, transfers,
Yeah.
stuff like that, of course. It's not a bank.
Yes, I gotta be really careful. I have to protect my buyer, and I also wanna know what's on the sell side. Don't lie to me and tell me it's cash, it's in Russia. Don't lie to me. Nothing, that, you know, I'm not saying it's bad, it's okay, I'm just saying, don't tell me cash, man. I'm like, oh, look, I got cash, you know, and then I'm like, what do you mean it's in Russia? So,
And have you noticed a lot now, 'cause I had a buyer ask me about this, wanna say cash, but then go into a loan.
yeah, and
I
that's,
warned him that.
they're in
you-
default.
Yeah, because then you don't have any
They're in
financial
default.
contingency either.
Yeah. You can get all the loans you want, but you might wanna do them at closing, because we can't back out.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's not,
Don't do it. But
yeah,
other,
favorable.
and they can switch it at any time, right? So what if it was a cash buyer and he had 500,000, but he's talking to his financial person? I'll put other. And then I'll put no finance, no appraisal continue. I'll put that all in to make it look better, but just be careful. Talk to the people and make sure everything's okay before you do it.
Can they switch lenders? Touch on that.
Yeah, you just gotta be careful with the commitment date. Okay, and that's over here. So they have to make, the contract is contingent within, if left blank, 30 days after the effective date for the approval. Well, today's the 18th, isn't it? Okay, and I want to close April 15th, but I left the 30 days in here. How are we doing? Not good. I defaulted. You're gonna make sure these dates are before the close date. So your 30 days better be before the close date. Otherwise, you default. You don't have the commitment. So you defaulted. So be careful with that. And who do you talk to about these dates? Don't call me.
The lender,
Call the lender, call the loan
and
officer.
listen to what they say.
Yeah. Call them. Don't
Don't
talk
make
to
it
the
your own.
buyer. By the time you write this offer, you should have spoken to the loan officer at least 2 or 3 times.
Thank you, the lender, and calling on behalf of a mutual client of ours, Dolores. I'm about to write an offer for her. She gave me pre-approval, $500,000. How soon can I get loan commitment for this guy?
So
Can
Doreen,
you do
that's
that
so
before you
awesome.
sign the contract?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So she calls me up and I'm the loan officer. I'm like, that's so awesome. Dolores who? Well, that's my first question. And then, oh yeah, she came in the other day and she hasn't filed her taxes this year because she's a 1099. So she's probably gonna need an extension. And if she can get her credit up another 35 points in the next 30 days, and if she provides me.
Okay, hold on one moment, because I'm looking at a pre-approval with your
It's just a
signature on it.
pre-approval, but I have all these contingencies.
Okay,
so
great. Well, thank you so much for the information.
Thank
you, Albert.
She hasn't met loan conditions.
You have not. Why would you give me a pre-approval and you give me 1 to 3?
And they don't
Your
give you
buyer has-
pre-approval?
They have no idea.
No, have a nice day.
So that's one
Then I'm calling
conversation.
Maria.
Now let's do it again.
Oh.
Hold on. Now let's do the same phone call again. So,
Hi, this is Doreen over at Keller Williams calling to talk about a mutual client of ours, Dolores. I'm about to write an offer for her on a property, 500,000. I have a pre-approval from you for 505. When can I get loan commitment?
oh, that's great. She is amazing. We probably closed 4 or 5 deals in the last 15 years. Her credit score is well over 750. I can provide it whenever you're ready.
Okay, how about 20 days? Can I
That's
get
all.
it in
We can
20?
close in 20 days,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay,
She's
good,
gold.
great,
She's
well,
gold.
okay, good, thank you so much.
2 different conversations.
I'll go ahead and get the contract over to you shortly.
That's why you've got to talk to the loan officer.
Oh, yeah.
That's where that goes.
Dolores, I do
And
that.
then
I
you
send
send
it
it.
in.
Yeah, hold on, listen.
Last summer, this was on the deal that I was doing, called the lender. The lender said she was good to go, sent me a DU underwritten approval. Everything was fine. I call them And he's like, oh, you know what? I don't know, let me check that. What's her name? Rashid. Turns out she can't even buy a home. And I got an underwritten approval. Can't even buy
And we
it.
asked them to look at it again, because we assigned
Something
it
happened.
to someone else, and she
You
didn't.
have to call the lender.
Yeah, we sent her to someone else, and they said, no, she couldn't get that from
So
me,
she
so how
forged it or
can she get it?
something?
Not that she
No,
forged
he
it,
sent it, he got
he
fired.
calculated it wrong.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was
That
just
was-
going to whoever would give her the best,
It was at 450.
Yeah.
When we knew she couldn't qualify.
probably for like
more than-
220.
And with me, as soon as I hear 1099s,
Yeah.
I have issues with 1099s, they're not W-2s, I have to put the brakes on, because it's gonna take more time. I can do it, I mean, the loan officer can do it, but then I'm relying on income tax returns, and it's not April 15th yet, pretty sure those 1099s haven't gone, they haven't filed their taxes yet. So, and they have to have this year's taxes, and they can't go 2 years before that. This is one of the 2 years, you can't do the other 2 years. So as soon as I hear that about taxes, and my ears go up, and I'm like, okay, but what do we have to do to get
Or they
this
haven't
done?
been on the job that long,
Yeah.
so sometimes they can't have bonuses or. shit
And I
like
love
that.
when someone says, oh, I make 150,000 a year, what do you do, nails?
Mhm.
Nothing wrong with it, but guess what they're not doing?
Or
I
you
pay
know,
taxes on that money, so I have no income tax return. So you just have to connect the dots, and it's hard, because we do this so fast. The more experience you have, the faster it goes,
Mhm.
and you'll learn the hard way. Why didn't I think of that? Well, don't worry about it.
So I had one last month and the lender called me, say, hey, my client's gonna send you an offer, their agent's working to send an offer in, and I'm calling to tell you that my client is great, they're doing, everything's good. They're in, Miramar, and they're moving to West Palm, and they're using the FHA. And I'm like, okay, so they have another property they're holding? She said, yes. I said, okay, so what?
There you go.
I said, okay, so is there supposed to be a distance between the other property they're buying, if they're using the FHA? She said, yes, it's like 100 miles. So it's not 100 miles, West Palm Beach.
Like 50 miles.
So, and you're the lender, and telling me they're doing great, and now you only have 50 miles in between the two houses, so I can't accept their offer.
Yeah, and it's not a matter of what the lender says that it's okay, right? Because he said it's okay. You know, it's gonna get all the way up to the close date.
And then we got.
And then not go through.
Yep.
And the process is like, yes, you do. Right? So. You good? All right. Financing, don't worry about all those things. All right. I'm not saying don't read it. I'm just saying let's not worry about it. Oh, where's my notes?
No, we want the appraisals have to be done.
Yeah, appraisals are covered in here. All right.
Can there be a situation where both cash and
Hold on, guys.
financing?
Hold on. Hold it.
Can there be a situation where both cash and financing apply?
No,
No?
no, because cash is a part of financing. Because they're getting financing, so there'll be some cash with it, right? So, no, you can't have.
Yeah, so like I have a guy putting down 60% cash, the rest of the loan. So
Still a
sometimes
loan.
the
Still financing.
Mhm. The little loan.
In here, like closing costs by seller and closing and costs to be paid by buyer. We glossed over this so quickly. I was like this close to a lawsuit because the agent didn't tell the buyer that this wasn't part of anything. Yeah. Wait, what? So costs paid by buyer. So the buyer hired an attorney because we didn't disclose. And I said, but it's on the contract. Yes, but she told her that's all she needed to close. Right? Was at the beginning where it says cash to close.
Oh.
So she said that's all you need to close. And so they completely skipped over this. Now, whose responsibility is this to share the information with the buyer, no matter how experienced that buyer is? Right? It's the agent, right? And the same on the list side, right?
I always say it's close, it's 4%, an estimate of 4% of the
Okay.
purchase price.
But
give or
you
take.
don't know the circumstances, so it's kind of hard to say that.
So that's wrong to say the 4%?
I wouldn't do it because you don't know if, like, they have to get property insurance. Sometimes they want a whole year or 2 years in advance to be held in escrow at insurance company.
Oh, wow.
To $6,000,
That messes up your
$10,000.
4%.
So then what do you say to your buyers then?
Well, you just
The
go over
lender.
these things and say, these are some of the things that we could encounter. And if this happens, we'll know about it in advance. We'll know, because when we get the appraisal, we'll also get the insurance, so we'll know. So as we go through the different steps, we'll know what the actual cost will be. Not to scare them, but also not to make them think they're skipping all the way to closing what they have to close.
Yeah.
If you're working with someone with limited budget, sometimes they
You
need
gotta
that
be-
bigger
For
picture
the seller.
to know what you may be
Absolutely.
working for.
Yeah, because then you're struggling when it comes time to the last 48 hours. And where do you think that money's gonna come from in the last 48 hours?
Your commission.
Because you guys are gonna give up that commission like that. You guys do it all the time. You'll give up your commission. So it's better to be upfront. She'll better watch. That would be the wrong one.
I would not, I have
You
not.
do a reverse net, or like anything like that, to show them before closing.
Yeah, it's just kind of hard on here. So you just want to review that there's things outside of the scope of the actual offer and financing. And who tells them this information, the actual dollars?
I don't know, anymore the.
Their lender. Their lender puts everything in because they have to figure out the ratio and everything, right? They know it. They know it. Talk to your
So the
lender.
lender puts in the homeowner's insurance as
Yeah.
well?
That's how they figure out if they can qualify.
I send them to a lender beforehand and say, this is the property, and you give them the number, so that I'm sure that number is gonna work for them.
Give them the
Yeah,
MLS and they can
And
figure it
as
out.
far as
I
the
also-
title company sometimes.
Yeah.
And also making sure that they're okay with that monthly payment.
Yeah.
Because you could be
The
wasting
lender will
time
figure it
showing
all
them
out.
stuff.
And
That
then
they
there's
don't
a
wanna spend that
policy
much on
that this is basically.
And that's when they get the sticker shock of what their monthly payment is going to be.
Exactly.
So if it's conventional, the lender will say your taxes are not being held in escrow, if it's FHA or VA. The lender, that's the lender's conversation, not us. We just have to let them know, go talk to your lender. Yeah. Yeah. Now, what else would I put in here that's considered a part of closing costs?
The 495.
KW.
Thank you.
495. What is it called?
Compliance.
Compliance.
I felt some
Yellow
compliance
What's
thing.
that other fancy language?
I heard.
AW, regulatory compliance.
Regulatory, KW regulatory compliance fee, 495.
It's so fancy.
I know. We're like, what's that?
It's a regulatory compliance fee. It's just regulatory for all of us. It's regulatory. Don't you know what that means?
Yeah, you're smart, right?
It's so fancy, and if you do it matter of factly, they're afraid to ask.
Yes.
Like they didn't make sure all your.
Yeah, okay.
I'm like, they check. it.
Richard engineer.
Okay. They keep them on file for
We're so
7 years.
cool. Look, when you're working on a deal, your body language and your tone reflects your confidence in the transaction. And so if you're not confident about something, what do you think the other side's going to see? They won't see it. And it makes them nervous, right? So if I'm really confident about this, which I am, they will be too. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay. No problem. But if I'm like, well, it's a processing fee, and don't worry. We don't know.
I know.
No,
No, I
Right?
would say this is your standard fees that the brokers charge.
just say it's a regulatory complaint.
Yeah, I say that, and then I said it's very.
They all charge it. Say
Right,
They
and
all
I
charge
said
it.
it's a standard fee that everyone charges.
So like, when you buy a car, they have, what's that?
Dealership fee.
Dealership.
Yes,
Prep-
and I refuse
Dealership
to
prep
pay
fee. That's what this is. the
I love when
dealership
mine
prep
is
fee.
495 and the other one says 895.
Yeah, there's our.
Oh, yeah.
$1,000.
50.
Okay, so that goes here for either the seller or the buyer. Okay,
But you gotta fit in for your client.
Your side, yeah.
Yeah, your side of the deal.
And if you have both, it would make sense to charge the same to both. So be careful. All right. Home warranty, what do you put in there? What do you put in for the home warranty?
You have to ask. Before you.
Experienced agent.
NA.
Do you ask? Seriously, like, totally
Do I
transparent.
ask my
Do you ask your buyers about this?
if they want to get a home warranty from the seller? No, unless I want to be enough to be accepted, because they're gonna say yes, why not? We want
Okay,
it.
so you don't even ask.
Stove and the fridge.
It doesn't have, it
You
doesn't
can
have,
have the conversation.
it doesn't have to come from the seller, it says paid by.
Paid by the
buyer.
It could be a
So-
gift, can you gift them? Or is that the?
The question is, when you're filling out the offer, do you ask the buyer?
I'll do it the last time she wanted it.
What's the reason?
So here's what I would do.
Yes.
I do go over it with her. I love home warranties. I think they're great. They're $500 to $600 a year. If something goes wrong, you just make a service call, and trust me, you're buying a used house, things will go wrong. So it's protection for a year. However, let's not add it in. My recommendation is, let's not put it in now. Let's wait till we get to the inspection. And if the inspection shows wear and tear on any of these things, how about we ask the seller to pay for it then?
Gina wouldn't have it.
Well, everyone's different. That's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
So
okay.
because I know when the inspection comes in, if that AC works, but the house is 20 years old, it's gonna come in on the inspection report. So rather than have my seller pay for anything, I'm just like, instead of doing any of these repairs, let's just get a home warranty, not to exceed $600. My buyer will be happy for the next year.
I like that a lot. And how would you enter that in there?
Well, here, no.
Nothing.
And wait for the inspection.
And then after inspection.
Because when the inspection comes in, if it's 5 pages long, I'll say home warranty, right? Home warranty. But that's how I use the home warranty. And you're always gonna have people that want it right away, which is okay. I mean, I collected $495, so you know, I can't pay for it. As a gift,
Yeah.
I can't.
No, she was paying for it.
Which is perfect,
Mm-hmm.
because then it can go into the mortgage, if you think about that. Yeah. So, but I like doing it after the inspection. 'Cause look, how many of you have bought a used car? Can a used car have damage? Do you need repairs after you buy a used car? That's what, 10, 15,000? How about a house that's 500,000? It's a used house. Now, a car has about 1,000 moving parts. A house doesn't. It has electrical, plumbing, foundation, and roof. That's it. When you think about it, it's not that much, and this covers half of it. Doesn't do roof, doesn't do foundation, but electrical and plumbing, taken care of. AC, appliances, all taken care of. So $75 a service call, $100 a service call, they never have to worry for the next year, because the minute they close, something goes wrong.
Especially when they're buying it for investment, I always tell them.
Oh, investment, always.
They always think, that, oh, why not think after that?
Investment properties always get the homeowners, always. Okay, special assessment. So I hope that's a little bit of. that you can do. Oh, survey. Survey. Whose responsibility is it to get the survey?
Fire.
Buyer?
Well, your lender or your buyer.
Okay, so I'm a buyer, I'm buying in Century Village. Do I need a survey?
No.
No. Why do I need a survey? When there's land. Townhouse can have land. So
Yeah.
I don't need it for if there's no land. And second, if it's cash, nobody is going to order a survey. Nobody. So who do you ask? The buyer. Yeah, do you want to do a survey? You have to ask, because you go all the way closing and there's no survey yet. And then you find the encroachment, and then you find everything else. So appraisal and survey for cash buyers, write yourself a note, in cash and land, ask buyer. Okay. Special assessments. This has nothing, you guys have been in my class, you already know, it has nothing to do with condos and homeowners.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Can we go back to the survey? So if the buyer chooses to have a survey, where do you put
Title
it?
company. Oh, you can put that in on page 12. It's not a condition.
Okay.
It's just an option if they want to do it. But you can put it on, if they say yes, put it on page 12. But you must notify, see, everything you put on the contract, who's the contract go to? Besides
It goes
the
to
title
everybody.
company and
Right.
if there's financing, right?
Right.
So if you put it on page 12, the title company knows he has to order it, which is
Okay.
cool. Because then you don't, then if you forget, it doesn't
So the
matter.
title company orders it. We
Absolutely.
don't.
Well, they have companies that they deal with.
Okay.
Yeah, I use NextGen, but I don't know if Level 10 does, so. If you don't have a company, ask your title company. But they'll go looking for it because I know they have to add it for closing once you put it on that.
I lost idea for the survey.
Oh,
The pool literally, the corner of the pool literally hit some. The
neighbor?
She just wanted to know, I'm sure. but, yeah. And it was a cash deal, so, but because of the pool's already built, it was in the ground, and it was like, I don't know.
You gotta be careful. Isn't it? Yeah.
And typically, if it's financing, the lender will
Yes,
require.
yes, the lender lender always takes care of insurance and appraisals and sort of, because remember, they're buying the house, right? And they're just gonna mortgage it to you. So, but on cash deals, there's no one looking over insurance either, right? Title, if you're buying cash, you don't have to get title. You don't have to get title insurance, you have to get title, but you don't have to get title insurance. I mean, when we were going through foreclosure period, when we were in the recession and we were doing foreclosures and people were buying condos that used to go for 200,000, we were buying them for 25. Boynton, Hypoluxo, and the little condos right on Hypoluxo and, no, Hypoluxo and Congress. Something,
The meadow.
Meadows.
Meadows.
Those little condos, they were condo conversions and they were going for 200,000. And during the crash, they went down to 15 and 20,000. And I had someone who was buying condos like one a month, it was a family, and they were putting it on their American Express card. So they're buying condos with American Express card, which I thought was the coolest thing, but they weren't getting title insurance for anything. So 3 or 4 went well, and then one of them, there was liens on there that were like over 300,000, and that's when they stopped. And I was like, I think we need to get title insurance. And I'm like, yeah, we better, because we didn't see the liens.
On that note, I just had a question from someone I'm working with now about closing costs utilizing credit card. Is this an option?
Lender won't allow it. Well, if it's cash?
The
I've
credit
never heard
card.
of that.
I
That'd be some good
I actually
mileage
had
points,
that
right?
question. I actually had that question, and I talked to Sarah in type level 10, and she said, no,
For real?
you have to have cash.
What
That's what she
American
said.
Express?
That's what they say, right? Well, my buyer asked if she could use her credit card for closing costs for a $65,000 condo, and Sarah said no.
I'm gonna check.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say American Express. American Express is cash,
Okay.
it's not credit. It's cash. That's a great question. American Express, I'm gonna use it. So, look at the points. All right. Special assessments, nothing to do with condos, nothing to do with homeowner assessments, nothing to do with those things. Special assessment is for government entities. Remember when you're in the FRET class, when you're in the FRET class, and so they talked about assessments, state assessments, like if they build a road, half of the road goes here and half of the road goes there, they're paying assessment, those are the assessments. Water, electric, anything that the county, public bodies, those are the assessments that they're talking about here.
You
cannot join us at this hour.
You know what, ask,
There was one on the top.
There you go, steal hers, yeah.
Not a special.
Here's one. Here's one.
Gene.
Jane,
Awesome, thank you.
I just wanted to make you go for a while.
I can always use one.
There you go. What were you guys saying?
special assessments are not from the HOA, they're from the.
We're done.
cities and-
You're fired.
the city.
Never.
She really is. She's going to Orlando.
Oh.
Okay, so that's what this is, just, it should be in your seller's disclosure and your title company, you might find it out. But typically what they're saying is, does the seller pay everything prior to closing? Or does the seller pay installments prior and the buyer pay installments due prior to closing and the buyer pays after? Or does the seller pay for everything? So here's my story. No, seller shouldn't pay for everything. You said pay. No, my story is, my seller lives in there up until closing. Who's gonna enjoy those assessments after closing? It has to be split. That's the way, that's my story.
So last month,
Always split.
So last month, agent, well, agent, but an agent sent me an offer on a house that I listed, and she lost the deal because she could not get over.
Over the
getting her-
assessment?
Exactly, she could not get over getting her buyer to understand that seller pays before and buyer pays after, and she wanted to pick seller pays everything if there's an assessment. I'm like, look, there isn't even an assessment, but she lost the deal because she couldn't get her buyer to understand and say, okay, you're out. Because she couldn't get her to see that my seller was not gonna accept the part that said the seller paid. There was no special assessment by the city, but you just could not get the buyer.
So you were fighting over nothing.
Exactly, but I told her, she said she's always selected seller pays. I said, even when you represent the seller? She said she's always, I said, well, you're not doing your seller
You should
justice.
call her, because she should be in this class. And you can build your downline.
She's a Keller Williams.
She's in, oh, never mind.
Oh, she's in-
Oh, my gosh.
She- I'm just telling you, Dolores knows her, but I won't tell Dolores. She works at another office, and we went neck and neck about it, and I'm like, listen, I know you, I'm trying to help you with this buyer.
Yeah.
That you've been, this is our 7th transaction now, I see why this is our 7th transaction,
Oh, yeah.
7th offer.
But it's kind of logical,
But she
right?
would not let go of that, and I told her, I said, I'm not accepting that from my seller, so you need to talk to your buyer.
She needs to tell her
And she
buyer,
would not.
you're gonna be the one living in here from this time forward.
Right.
It's all about your enjoyment.
That is
You're
the
benefiting.
only reason that she lost the deal last month.
Okay.
So what's the split here? Is it 50-50 or?
No, well, it's telling you that they're paying, the seller pays everything prior to closing,
Yeah.
day of closing, and the buyer pays everything after closing.
It's the day of close.
Everything day of closing.
Sometimes
That's the
what
win-win.
happens, what a good old school OG visual is, take a calendar out, literally physical, because they can't see it in their head, and they get squirrely like that lady did. And you look at the calendar and you circle the closing date,
Yeah.
you go, they own it now, and then you gotta go like baby elementary steps, so people
Yeah.
can actually get off the ceiling with that stuff, because, and they need visuals, and I'll make a copy of the calendar. It's really kind of, you gotta kind of treat
I
it.
think the agent understood it, she just couldn't get the buyer to understand.
Well, then she's gonna do the same thing with the buyer,
She
right?
couldn't get her buyer to understand it, and then, she was like, you just get yourself to accept the offer and just not even think about it. I'm like, no, because I'm not doing my seller justice. What if the city comes next week and says, we're gonna clear the sidewalk or build something, and now it's an assessment in the area? My seller is stuck with a bill that she has to pay in full because I took an offer where you didn't want to get your buyer to agree. So I can't do that.
All we can do is help that agent, right?
If I may ask now, so when submitting a contract, so that agent check the second box, right?
Yes, she checked the second box on behalf of her buyer, but when I'm reviewing the offer to present to my seller,
That
I'm
could
not
have slipped,
taking that
that
off.
could have slipped right through that little X, could have slipped right
I'm
through.
not picking that offer with my seller, but if something happens, my seller is stuck
Yeah,
with the bill
seller is
30
stuck.
days later.
That is so hard to see over here. Yeah. Because y'all are so busy looking for my commission. Yeah.
I don't know, all the blanks.
Yeah.
Eight both pay.
Okay.
A is both people paying,
Yeah.
not just one person.
Yeah.
Both. They going down.
And you know, when you think of the way, like why foresee two Ts, win-win or no deal, it has to work for both of us, right? Win-win or no deal.
Win-win.
Yeah, win-win, has to be a win for both,
I
no.
can't tell you how long I had a conversation with her over that, and I was so disappointed because I know you taught her well, and she's been in this office, and I was so disappointed that we couldn't get over it.
I will
That
find
one
her. I
little
will
hurdle,
find her.
we couldn't get over it, and I was not about to go down
She
that
needs to
road.
know
I was like, that's it, next offer.
Yeah.
And I had 7 offers already on the clock.
And you tried to.
And I tried to help her, I was trying to help her,
And that's why it's so important to
and I
understand.
ended up with another agent.
Don't just do what you always do, understand. Because we're in the habit of check, initial, and then we just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to slow down. Okay, this is another little issue. Okay, here's seller's disclosure. As listing agents, we always get a written seller's disclosure. If we don't, there's an addendum now for our listing agreements that we just created. So if they don't want to do the seller's disclosure, they don't have to, but there's a whole term list written in there. So they can't, nobody can come back and say that. So that protects us as agents, which is great. So that's good. We can't force the other side to do a seller's disclosure, right? If we're on the buy side, we can't force the listing agent of another company to provide us a seller's disclosure. We can ask for it, and then that's all we've got.
But what if you don't get it and they refuse to give it to you because they think it's not a size?
Print the email.
What do you mean? If they have a seller's disclosure,
No, they don't have one.
then you
They
don't, then you
refuse to
can't
do
get it. We can't force the other side to give us a seller's disclosure.
I've actually asked the title company to get it for me.
Are you gonna hold up a deal over it? No, just get it with inspector. The inspector is gonna check everything anyway.
Just print his email saying he doesn't have it. That way it just shows that you asked.
Or send him our new addendum that holds everybody harmless.
Yeah, that's true.
That new addendum will hold both sides harmless. Say, you know what, this might work for us, but you can't force the other side. We only have control over one thing, right? We can't stress over what we don't have control over. Okay, this section is the inspection period, that's one, and the right to cancel. 2 different things. All right, the buyer shall have the left bank 15 days after the effective date, which is called the inspection period, which to have inspections of the property performed as buyer shall desire during the inspection period. Cool, my buyer doesn't want an inspection. All right, well, the seller says no inspection. Cool. Then it says, in buyer's sole discretion, nothing to do with inspection. That the property is not acceptable to the buyer for any reason, sole discretion. Buyer may terminate this contract by delivering written notice of such election to seller prior to this date. It doesn't say prior to an inspection. So you want to leave the numbers there. Because they can cancel.
Oh, so if you put 0, they can't.
If you put 0, they can't cancel. So you put the numbers here, and on page 12, buyer waives the right to conduct an inspection by a licensed inspection company. Bam, that's it. That's it. 2 different things. This is so I can cancel. The other one is so that I can waive the inspection. But if you put a 0 here, I can't back out. Because this says that they have to back out prior to the expiration of the inspection period.
So still put 7 days or 10 days in that section, and at the back of the
Page 12.
page
Waive the
12,
right to conduct an
buyer
inspection.
waive the right to conduct an inspection, which makes that date.
You're gonna have to, it's a teaching moment for the other agents
I was just
because
gonna say that, because
they
the
don't get it.
whole reason why they wanna see a 0 is because they don't want you to walk away from the 0. But if you put a number there, they don't care if there's an inspection or not. That's not gonna be the reason why you don't walk away from the 0. They don't care. So if there's a number there, that's the part you're gonna have to.
Well, they'll say, no appraisal, no inspection. Okay. 15 days to back out, no inspection on page 12. 2 different things.
So
And
that way,
you can put your 15 or 10, okay, and then you can cross out within which to have inspection of the property performed as buyer shall desire to inspection period. You can't cross that inspection part out, but don't cross the next section out because that's the backup.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, FIRPTA, my favorite word, FIRPTA. Justin, my next dog is FIRPTA.
They can't be from the US.
FIRPTA number.
You have to order the dog from the.
Okay.
It's only gonna make sense.
That's true.
7 is competitive, or 5.
Perfect.
Market.
So is anyone in the transaction, buyer or seller, the person you work with, doesn't have a social security number or an EIN? And there's also another type of way to work here, but not be legal. I don't remember what it's called. Beautiful enough, she told me about it. There's another kind of, you don't get a social security number, but you do file taxes.
They tell us.
ITIN number? But an ITIN is an EIN number, so that's really weird. So it's the same thing. Okay, EIN and ITIN are, they're the same numbers.
8 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
you gotta work for me.
Yeah, well, I don't care, as long as you file taxes, right? So ITIN, EIN, and social security, you're filing taxes. If you don't have those, we need to go over FIRPTA. So if they don't have those 3 types of ID, it means they're not filing taxes. And FIRPTA is all about filing taxes. So what I do is I have everybody initial. I just have them initial. I'm not allowed to review it with them. I'm only allowed to ask if they file taxes. I'm only allowed to ask if they have a social security number. I don't ask everyone. But I know if I'm working with Canadians, we're going over this, right? No.
I didn't say that.
Do I have an accent? So there's 2 places. This is one, I make them initial it because I need them to talk to a tax specialist or an accountant or an attorney. I'm not allowed to tell them why I'm doing this, except that it does stand for the foreign, oh my God, Foreign Investment in Real Property Tax Act on your 1040. So that's what that is. So don't try to figure out what the exemption is. Don't figure out how much they're gonna net. It's none of your business. They pay tax on a certain amount. It's not your job to ever tell them. You do not know their circumstances. You don't know if they're gazillionaires and this is just gonna take them over the edge. And it's not your business to ask. Well, you should ask if they're gazillionaires, but it's not your business to ask.
So is this only on the buy side or?
No, this is anybody,
Fire seller.
buyer or seller.
Okay.
So you put 2 lines for initials to the left of, say, line 242?
Yes, well, your side, however many people you have, because wherever the other agencies, your initials, they have to match it.
Correct.
Yeah, so you put your side to 1, 2, 3 people. And then once they see that, they know they have to match it also. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's basically for foreign investors.
And it's, see, a foreign investor could be someone who's buying here or someone who's selling here, it doesn't make a difference. I just have to know my side.
It could be for anybody just coming here from.
Coming to buy or
Having
having sell.
or New York and they may be foreigners and.
Well,
I was gonna ask that.
yeah,
Okay.
the big deal is Canadians. They're the
And she
ones.
didn't want it. She wanted to make sure everybody who bought it signed that document.
They have to, they get it at closing.
I was gonna ask about, to follow up on this, let's say you're a politician in Haiti, you have a diplomat passport, and you have kids living here, and you're buying a home
You can
for them
buy.
to live.
Of course you can, he just has to read this. Because when he buys it, it's okay, but when he sells it, it's gonna say, well, my agent didn't tell me that when I sell it, I'm subject to FIRPTA tax, blah, 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 blah. So that's all you're doing, you're just letting them know in it. Yeah. Now, if they're buying cash, we want them to bring their cash over. Just gotta let them know that IRS is gonna catch you when you get out. The whole point is when that foreigner leaves, IRS wants their money. And there's no other way to get their money if there's no ITIN, EIN, or social security. They just take the money and leave the country, and IRS is like, where's my money?
So the title company has to be aware
Title company does
that
everything.
they hold that portion of the money
Well, they know, right? So the title company has to fill out a form. The title company will ask them all that, those questions. So the title company knows. We just have to disclose.
We don't figure it out, we just.
Yeah,
the title company figures it out.
So cool, right? Default. Wow. Let me go straight to seller default. That's the easier one. Default means someone didn't perform. And you can sue for default. You want to hire an attorney. If the seller doesn't perform and the seller says, let's close tomorrow. I can't do it. Not closing, not showing up. What happens?
They don't vote.
They don't close?
You get your money back and everything's up.
Yeah, nothing happens. See ya. So sellers are easy.
That's fine.
Well, you get these people.
If the seller doesn't show up,
You can't force someone to sell.
can't force.
Well, sometimes you can get them to pay your inspection. Man. I've done
If they sign the contract, what do you mean?
They're really nice about it, but they don't.
Yeah, agree. They rather much. Or if you don't say
Some
nothing.
feel guilty.
You can't force him to sell his house.
Yeah. Seller default is very difficult.
They can take him to court, but it's take forever.
Even if it was.
That's not where the problem happens.
All you have to do is just say something. They have the right to say yes or no.
I know.
So the contract is not enforceable to them.
It is technically, but not really.
It is if an attorney, if you want to hire an attorney and go to court for damages. That's where the contract is
They might
enforceable.
change the
But as far as we're concerned, you just lost your commission.
Right.
And maybe your buyer.
They did all this work.
Right.
I want my
But the buyer gets
commission.
the
That's right,
money
you're the
back,
buyer.
of course.
Buyer gets the money.
My
You know,
seller did it.
If you say, hey, you know, we're gonna get an attorney, and if you don't do this, they may say no, they can say yes. But, you know.
You can ask. There's no harm in asking.
Or you have a seller like mine.
Yeah, my seller 2 years ago.
We're scaring the new people.
No, but. Yeah, my seller said, you know, we were selling his house we were selling his project as a foreclosure, as a short sale, because he was underwater, and we were selling as a short sale, and we were going through the process. I got an investor, put the money down, cash, we were ready to go. And we had already done inspection, then he said, you know what, I'm gonna try to work it out and pay my bills and see if I can keep my house, because where else am I gonna go? And we were already on a contract, and seller changed his mind, said, nope, not selling it. And the investor was, ooh, he was mad, and he said, I'm getting an attorney, I'm gonna sue him, I want my money, you know, he got his money back, but he said, I want that property because it's a triplex, and I'm an investor, and I want it, and it's in Carlsbad, I want it.
Watch my brake lights. I'm
And he
leaving.
said, no, you're not getting it, I'm not selling it, and he came out of the deal and paid up his, you know, it came out of short sale, and, 2 years later, I sold it double the price.
Good for him. And that's a
So it
good
was
story.
good.
That's a good story.
It was good for him, but my buyer, I had to both sides, but the buyer was not attached.
Yeah. Anyway,
And
Paul,
besides,
hire an attorney. That's all I got for sellers. All right, buy side. This is our problem.
yes.
If the buyer defaults, and it's their fault, right? So if they're turned down for a loan, it's not their fault. And it's kind of weird that you say if they're turned down, it is their fault because something didn't happen, but it's not their fault. If you can get the denial done before the commitment date, that's the whole, everything has to be done before the commitment date. If the buyer doesn't turn, you know what, let's go back to page 1, where you guys, I'm gonna say you guys because I don't do it, where you guys put in deposit or earnest money will be done in 3 days. If it's not in 3 days, that's a default. That's a default, right? So you may be struggling to get that thing in, but the other side's like, I get more money, right? So just make sure you pass on the information. Now, if the buyer doesn't perform, they don't apply for the loan, they don't apply for the homeowner or condo association, or they do it too late. Whatever the buyer doesn't do and the deal falls apart, they can lose their earnest money. So let's go back to that $50,000 that's sitting. Your seller's eyes get that big. Yay, they defaulted, right? I'm getting $50,000. No. Because
the portion of the deposit paid to listing broker upon default by the buyer shall be split equally between listing broker and co-op owner.
Did you guys know that?
Yes, but at the same time, in the MLS now that are stating that.
I don't care.
This
Supersedes MLS. Everything goes in order. Listing agreement, contract, listing agreement, MLS, contract. This supersedes everything. So we'll fight over it. Now, how hard do I want to fight over it? If it's a $2,000 deposit, go get another buyer. Because I'm not fighting, because remember the broker has to go out there. But if it's 50,000, we're fighting, we're tough. Right, we're tough. But just don't get so excited if you're on the sell side that you think the seller's gonna get all that money. Like, explain to your sellers when you're presenting an offer. Don't gloss over this stuff. Explain this to them. You don't have to go into great detail, but don't let them get excited when they see $50,000. It's not all theirs. And we'll fight over it. Now, we can only take,
That's in the list.
it's a, yeah, it is. So the listing agreement is between who?
Seller.
Broker and the agent, right?
Oh, I see.
This is the buy side. That listing agreement, you're giving up your commission, but the co-op agent can still get theirs. You just gave up yours on the listing side. You won't be happy if the other agent walks away with big money. And you got nothing because you did it on the listing. That's different. That's between you and the seller. Yeah. But it can't be greater than the commission, you know, if your commission was, if you were supposed to get, they put 50,000 down and your commission is 10,000, you can't get 25,000, you can't get half. You're only gonna get what you're allowed to get, 10,000. Okay, so just make sure, because a lot of times a listing agent will say something like, well, my seller wants the whole 50,000. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna talk about that. You're not gonna get that. Well, you say, yeah, go to your attorney. Well, I don't care, go get your attorney, because you're just gonna read this.
So we still get, on the buy side, we still get our commission. And they get the same.
We tried.
Basically.
We try, because that escrow money has to be released. No matter what, it has to be released. I can't get it if it's sitting in escrow. It has to be released by everybody.
You know?
It does. Yeah, and you don't want to be the agent that lost 50,000 for your buyer. You don't even want to lose 5,000 for your buyer.
No, and that's what scares me, and that's why I want like a lower escrow in the beginning.
Yeah, really. Can't win, can't have both sides.
You give the example of mine where they sit there and ponder and hold on to your escrow for the fight.
What was that?
Remember the one with the,
Coral Springs?
Coral Springs with the, I forget what office that is, but it was about 70,000 sitting in escrow. They pretty much knew the buyer could get it back, but until they just kind of
They
sat.
just wait.
They
They just
sit
wait.
there
You
on
had
the
to
response.
negotiate and give them.
So there's no timeline in the response
For them to release.
for them to release that escrow money.
We can argue over that for a year.
And it just sits there.
The other-
The
Oh,
buyer is
that-
like, where's my money? It's there.
The other agent won't sign it.
Yeah.
Won't push it.
That money is not just there for us to cancel and get back. We don't get it back.
Until
hard.
they finally release.
It's hard. Not
Does
easy.
the title company get charged something
No.
off of that?
No.
No, because it's a non-interest, they can't make money out of it.
Just sits there. And typically after about 2 or 3 years, they'll turn it into the courts, let the courts argue over it. Especially the $1,000 and $2,000 thing. We probably got about 20,000 sitting in the courts right now. Because people don't come back for $1,000, so it just sits there. I don't know where it goes after that.
Basically that, once, if there's a dispute over the escrow, that the seller can go back on the market and put it.
That's not true, it's two different things.
Immediately.
Two different things. Yeah, we cancel the contract, we're arguing over escrow.
So the seller can go and sell the house.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Turn around and put it right back out and make their money, and meanwhile, the buyer's sitting there tired.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to pay the agent $1,500.
Very good.
We had to,
Incentive.
no, we had, it was our, we were in the right. We had to go, we couldn't get our money back, we wouldn't do it. And in fact,
You
looked
told
him
us.
up, and he did it to his in-laws too.
Oh, wow.
In the multi-millions, and he's fighting over $1,500.
Wow.
But it was a $3,000, deposit. It wasn't.
Wow.
There should be a different way.
I know.
There should be a timeline.
There should be something,
not be-
yes.
Or they can't put it back on the market.
Well, not that, but. at
You
least-
can't hold up the house. We don't have
Yeah,
liens.
but
You
at
would
least
get
on
rid of
this
it
person.
quick, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're almost done. FinCen, if you're getting deposits over $10,000, warn them. Or there's tax flow, you don't have to warn them, the title company will do it. But you just might, it has to be reported to IRS. Because they're checking for money laundering and stuff, so anything over $10,000 has to be reported. I don't know why they put this in here, but it has to do with the closing agent has to do it, so I don't understand why it's in our contract, but it's there. So I guess if you have someone who is doing something illegal,
You're supposed to make them aware, remember that's what I did.
just make them aware of
You
it
have to make them aware that if their money is,
being laundered.
well, 'cause
I'm sorry, let me get the dust
so
off.
the Federal Reserve, it's like the law, it's like you have to be aware of the consequences.
So we have to warn
if
them.
You're violating this, just so you know.
You're doing something illegal and I have to warn you about the
Going to the
consequences.
financial information crime network and.
No one's warned you.
And so.
That's funny.
So you're saying with the higher escrow.
10,000. The title company files this report, and I brought a sample of the report for absolutely no reason, but it was sitting on my printer, so they have to. I don't know why it was there, somebody printed it on the wrong printer, maybe Daniel. Because he was looking for something the other day, maybe.
It was Eric.
Oh, Eric.
It wasn't that though.
Oh, I don't know, people print out my printer, and I'm like, I'm looking at report of cash payment over 10,000. Why are you looking at
What
that?
they try to argue is that it's entrapment. Oh, I didn't know I couldn't move
So
that
if
much
it-
money.
Is that why?
So if you put down the 20,000 in escrow and then add another 30.
Title
and then-
company, closing agent,
Right,
does it?
okay.
So why, don't you want to know? I don't want to get to closing, but it's entrapment, I guess.
Because then they get arrested and they're like, well, I didn't know I couldn't move that much money. Where'd you get it from?
What are you saying?
It was in my mattress. I don't know how it got there.
Can you go over this portion again? I feel like I missed something.
FinCen?
Yes, please.
So FinCen is reporting obligations, so the closing agent has to comply with US Treasury. That there's an amount, that essential information documentation related to the buyer, seller, whatever, is gonna be reported. The closing agent has to collect and report the information to IRS, and they do it on this form. So any cash of 10,000, actually, I think it's 999.
Yeah.
$10,000. At banks, closing agents, anyone has anything to do with financial institutions, they have to report that money, that transaction to IRS. IRS wants to investigate to see where that money's coming from, if it's legitimate.
They just complete a form called an SAR, and it just reports that this much money moves over. And if that person is a red flag already, with, Federal Reserve or anything like that, for moving money over, it's called smurfing, where they'll move small amounts of money over to that increment. Yeah. And moving
And everybody
moving
has
money
to-
over in increments like that person is a target for money laundering or is associated with this person that does it. Or financial terrorism or anything like that. It's a red flag.
So if it's.
But it's only
cash,
escrow,
or it's
right?
like-
Listen,
Cash.
anything,
Any
cash to close,
financial
anything
transaction
in that
from-
transaction.
From one bank to another, whether it's within the US or outside the US coming in, they have to complete an activity report of an SAR. All bankers do it. If you go
Every
to
bank does
deposit money in your bank did it, and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
It's just what they do to monitor it. If it becomes something too frequent with you, then they start looking into it.
That's for the banks. This one is an 8,300 to IRS. This
Right,
one's
but it's
different,
the same.
but it's, yeah, they're in conjunction with each other. So they put in 9,000 for the first deposit and 9,000 for the second deposit, because they think they're smart, they're under 10,000, it's still over $10,000. Maybe they can't add, but that's why they, you know. Right? They can't add to 10. So there's so many things, and there's also a 1099 at closing, right? So when the people sell their houses and they're making, sign here, there's a 1099 that they have to sign. So there's a lot of stuff involved in the closing that we're not even privy to. I want you to be careful with taxes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's here, but be careful with your taxes on a house. Never, ever, ever, ever use the taxes information, the property tax information, the amount that's in the MLS. Always go to the tax thing and use worst case, most expensive taxes. Because the one that's affiliated with the homeowner or the house has exemptions. And you don't know what your buyer's exemptions are going to contain. So use worst case taxes. Because if they're, a lot of times people will compare properties and they'll look at days on market and then they'll look at taxes. Oh, this one's 3,000 in tax and that's the same house on the same block and it's 8,000. We don't know their tax situation, so use worst case. Don't let them make decisions like that. And new construction, if it's never been titled before, they're the first owner, their taxes will always be up because their taxes are based on land. And then the next year, their taxes are based on an improved property on top of the land. And that's a shock.
And then assessments from the.
And then everything else, yeah. So stay away from taxes or just quote worst case, but never quote what the current owner has. Because I saw one the other day and they had 225,000 exemption on a $400,000 house.
Wow.
Widows, blind, regular exemption, and vet. Yeah, everything on there. I'm like, that's gotta be paying taxes. It was like $700 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then when the new owners get it, it's $6,500.
What about the?
Zero? I'm telling you. Yeah. Worst case. And make sure.
Yeah, make sure.
Does that have methods that's looking at the MLS?
Yeah.
And quoting what's in the MLS
Right.
and calling me about what's in the. I need a new letter.
You need a better lender. Boom. But it's not the lender, it's the loan officer who's just trying to get, throw 50 deals out and hope 5 come back. You're in the 45 that didn't. Yeah, so you gotta be careful with that. Oh, God, yeah.
They're not even quoting insurance
Right?
rate.
Okay.
Or do you have to pay them?
These are all your addendums. I'm not going over addendums, but the whole other class, but I do want to warn you with PACE. So PACE is on here. PACE is on here.
Oh.
PACE is, yeah, so PACE is new. It's the loan that you get for energy efficient improvements to your house. So if someone says, oh, we just got a new roof 2 years ago. Oh, did you get a PACE loan? Yeah, why? Why? It has to be paid off. That's why. It has to be paid off when you sell. Now, when you go, if you're not sure about PACE, when you look at their taxes, look at non-ad valorem taxes. That's how PACE shows up, in non-ad valorem taxes. That's where the loan shows up.
Can you see that in our now?
Yes. You look at their taxes, and it's better to use the other one, the real tax thing, but you can get it from IMET, but that's what you're looking for. When you see that amount, it's because they got a PACE loan for windows, roof, there's all kinds of things you can get PACE loans for. Solar, all kinds of stuff. But it's not ad valorem, because it has nothing to do with the property taxes. So that's where you'll see it. And then if they do, make sure they fill out this disclosure. How about that? We did it. We're a little late, but
Awesome class, I love
we
it.
did it. It was different. It was different. So now you have to go out and train everyone else.
I like it.
I cover everything, yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
How many of you are here tomorrow morning? Take your seat. Oh, go, do it.
I don't want.
Hold on, let's do what? Hold on.
Where would you see it in I? I feel like the builders are right there. Oh, so they do have it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this one, I don't know what that is. It could be something small and significant. Not much. It's typically the price of a roof. But it's
So
there.
the 501,
We don't know what that is. So you have to ask them.
so ask the
They're gonna pay that. They're not gonna argue over that. Yeah, but it's gonna come off. It's not a big deal. It's part of the
Okay, so
package.
don't even say anything.
No, the one you see, 20, 30, and 40,000. Yeah, because that's a big thing. Yeah, that's not a big deal. Water, something minor. Yeah. But that's where it shows up, not at the moment. All right, let's do a real quick drawing so that.
We're just.
I'm ready.
What time is it? What, I like, can I keep the bag? I just want the bag. Oh, that's so nice. I love the bag. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh my God. Yes. That's so sweet. Oh, I love it. Oh my God, I love the bag. So the bracelet that I got is for my granddaughter. I'm gonna pick her up tonight. Her birthday's next week, but I'm gonna give it to her tomorrow. Oh, nice. Yeah, so she'll be so surprised. That's what I said. That's his daughter. He's my son. It's his daughter. She's turning 16. No, that's the baby. That's the 8-year-old. The other one is 16. Yeah, that's who the bracelet's for, not that one. She will. She will. All right, did we win? You did.
Well, because
She did not win.
everybody that donated, we're giving it, because we had 3 people donate, so we're giving everybody a set of tickets.
Oh, nice.
So, and I didn't think it was fair to
Oh, that's
have one
great.
person
How much
win.
did you collect?
60.
That's good.
Hey, but for something quick,
Yeah,
next week we're gonna do the 50-50,
50-50 is good.
and then we're gonna try that once a
And you
month.
know what's 50-50?
Sweet.
Typically, the person who wins
Donate to that.
gives it right.
So,
Typically.
yeah.
And if not, no big deal.
And then when we have our meeting next week, we're gonna figure out every meeting, what to do, gas card, stuff like that.
That's fun.
So today, when I do my showing at 3:30, I'm going to say, let's make a strong offer. It's going to be, they know it's going to be the second offer. But let's put 10,000 instead of 5,000 like you did.
Absolutely.
Let's make this strong.
Put it in escrow.
Let's put it. And then do I still have the appraisal contingency? Is it cash? Yeah. You don't need it. Why would you need it? Yeah, but if the appraisal comes in a little bit lower.
Wait, it's cash.
No, it's not.
Well, then you don't need a contingency. It's already in there. It's in the contract. It doesn't appraise, it doesn't work.
Well, like, just say, we won't be paid this time, like.
Oh, that, if you want to pay over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in the mile.
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay. You're going to. So I would do 20, like, on top, and then give them another 30 in 10 days. After, after